First contact's price. The Archon-class vessel Stellar Meridian dropped out of hyperspace with a violent shudder, its quantum shields flickering dangerously as it emerged into an unremarkable solar system. Captain Vexera steadied herself against the bridge's central console, her crystalline appendages tingling with residual temporal energy. Behind her ship, 12 more Federation vessels materialized, their hulls bearing the scars of desperate flight. "Status report," she commanded, her translator converting her harmonics into standard Federation speech. The bridge crew, a mixture of species from across the galaxy, worked frantically at their stations. "Quantum shields at 18%, Captain," reported her first officer, Zenith, a being of pure energy contained within an engineered exoskeleton. "The Void Collective's new phase cannons nearly collapsed our drive matrix during the jump." Vexera's outer membrane darkened, the equivalent of a human frown. The Void Collective, with their hive mind efficiency and biological mechanical hybrid technology, had been pushing Federation forces back for 3 standard cycles. Their latest weapons could disrupt the very fabric of spacetime, making conventional FTL travel nearly impossible. "Position?" she asked, already dreading the answer. "We're in the preservation zone, Captain," Zenith replied quietly. "Sector 47X. The Earth system." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Every officer knew the significance. Earth, the forbidden world, quarantined by Federation law for the past 3 centuries. Humanity had been deemed too volatile, too unpredictable to join galactic society. Their rapid technological advancement and inability to conform to standard development patterns had frightened the Federation's governing council. Before Vexera could respond, her tactical officer's station erupted with alerts. "Captain. Void Collective signatures detected, they followed our wake. Estimated arrival, 40 planetary rotations." Vexera's species had evolved in the crushing depths of methane oceans, but nothing in her genetic memory had prepared her for pressure like this. Her fleet was damaged, her crew exhausted, and now they faced an impossible choice: abandon this system and be hunted down by the Collective, or violate the Federation's most sacred law and risk contact with humanity. "Show me the third planet," she ordered. The main view screen shifted, displaying Earth in all its chaotic glory. Thousands of satellites cluttered its orbit, along with space stations and the skeletal frameworks of orbital manufacturing platforms. Primitive chemical rockets launched regularly from the surface, while crude fusion drives powered ships between their planet and its single moon. "They've advanced considerably since our last observation," Zenith noted, his energy form pulsing with interest. "Their progress in just 3 centuries is concerning." A new alert caught Vexera's attention. On the planet below, multiple tracking stations had detected their presence. Military installations were going to high alert, and spacecraft were being scrambled. Humanity had spotted them. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the surface. Multiple frequencies, different formats. They're trying to establish contact." Vexera felt her chromatophores shift through patterns of anxiety. The Federation had strict protocols for this situation: activate stealth systems, retreat to safe distance, avoid all contact. But with the Void Collective approaching and their ships damaged, "How long until our drive matrices can support another jump?" she asked. "Minimum of 60 planetary rotations for basic repairs," her engineer reported. "We'd need triple that for a safe long-range jump." The math was simple and terrible. They couldn't run, couldn't hide, and the Void Collective would arrive in 40 rotations. Which meant, "Open a channel," Vexera ordered, her voice resonating with harmonics of determination. "All frequencies they're using. And get me everything we have on human military capabilities." "Captain," Zenith cautioned, "the Council's directives dash." "Will get us all killed," Vexera interrupted. "The Collective is coming, Zenith. And they won't care about preservation zones or diplomatic protocols. They'll strip this system bare and convert every living thing into their biomechanical armies. She moved to the center of the bridge, straightening to her full height. Humanity has been isolated because they're unpredictable, because they advance too quickly, because they don't follow normal patterns. Well, right now, that sounds exactly like what we need. The main screen flickered, showing a collage of human response vessels approaching their position. Their designs were crude but showed remarkable variety, no two ships quite the same, each one apparently modified and improved upon. If we're going to survive, Vexera said, watching the human ships approach, we need to break the rules. And from everything I've read about humans, that's what they do best. The channel opened, and Vexera prepared to change the course of galactic history with 6 simple words. People of Earth, we need your help. The human variable. Dr. Elena Santos stared at the holographic display floating above the hastily assembled Joint Command Center, her mind racing faster than the quantum processors she'd helped design. Around her, a mix of human military officers and Federation scientists watched as she manipulated the alien shield schematics with practiced gestures. Your quantum shielding uses a fixed oscillation pattern, she said, addressing Zenith, the Federation's chief scientist. That's why the Void Collective's phase cannons are so effective. They've figured out the pattern. Zenith's energy form flickered with what might have been irritation. The oscillation frequencies are based on universal constants. They can't be changed without destabilizing the entire matrix. Elena smiled, the kind of smile that had made her doctoral advisors nervous. Universal constants are fixed. How we use them isn't. Her fingers danced through the hologram, rearranging equations. What if we treated the shield as a jazz composition instead of a classical piece? I don't understand the reference, Zenith admitted. Captain Vexera, who had been silently observing, moved closer. Explain, Dr. Santos. Classical music follows strict rules, patterns. Jazz. Elena's smile widened, jazz improvises. We keep your base frequencies but add randomized variations within acceptable parameters. The shield strength might drop by 3%, but the Void Collective won't be able to predict the pattern. The Federation scientists erupted in harmonic disagreement. Impossible. Too unstable. The power requirements dash. They fell silent as General Chen, Earth's military liaison, stepped forward. How long to implement? Give me 48 hours and access to our quantum computing grid, Elena replied. Vexera's chromatophores shifted through patterns of disbelief. You built a quantum computing grid? But our scans showed no signs of dash. We kept it off your standard detection frequencies, Chen explained. Standard protocol for any new technology. Always have a hidden advantage. In another corner of the command center, human engineers were already taking apart a damaged Federation shuttle, their approach horrifying the alien technicians. Instead of following standard diagnostic procedures, they were literally poking, prodding, and occasionally hitting different components to see how they reacted. Stop, a Federation engineer cried as one human started connecting their primitive fusion power cells to the shuttle's quantum core. The energy wavelengths are completely incompatible. You'll cause a dash. The shuttle systems hummed to life, running at 82% efficiency. The human engineer said, making notes on a tablet. Guess quantum doesn't care about brand loyalty. Vexera watched all this with growing fascination. In just 3 days since first contact, humans had begun integrating Federation technology in ways her people had never considered. They treated advanced alien tech not with reverence, but with a casual curiosity that bordered on irreverence. Your people, she said to Chen, they're not afraid of breaking things. Breaking things is how we learn to build better ones, he replied. Besides, your technology isn't that different from ours. You just stopped asking, what if, somewhere along the way. A junior officer rushed in, tablet in hand. General, Dr. Santos, you need to see this. The Void Collective's advance fleet, they're accelerating. New ETA, 15 planetary rotations. The room fell silent. Even with humanity's rapid progress, 15 days wasn't enough time to prepare a proper defense. The Federation ships were still badly damaged, and Earth's military technology, while advancing quickly, wasn't ready for full-scale space combat. Elena stood up from her workstation, dark circles under her eyes testament to sleepless nights. Then we stopped thinking about defense. She pulled up a new hologram, this one showing the Void Collective ship formations from previous battles. These patterns, they're perfect. Too perfect. The Collective operates with a hive mind, Zenith explained. Every action is coordinated, optimized. Exactly, Elena said, her tired face animated with inspiration. They're optimized for fighting opponents who follow the rules. So let's break them all. She turned to General Chen. Remember that crazy idea Project Babel was working on? The one even I said wouldn't work. Chen's eyes widened. The Chaos Engine. But that was theoretical, we couldn't even get the math to dash. Because we were trying to solve it logically, Elena interrupted. But we're not fighting a logical enemy. We're fighting an enemy that expects logic. She looked at Vexera. Captain, how does the Collective respond to random events during battle? They, pause, Vexera said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn. Their hive mind needs time to analyze and optimize a response. And if we gave them thousands of random events every second? Elena asked. If we turned space itself into jazz? General Chen was already reaching for his comm unit. I'll have Project Babel's data transferred here immediately. Vexera watched as the humans mobilized, their seemingly chaotic actions concealing an underlying purpose she was only beginning to understand. Her species had evolved to see patterns in everything, but perhaps that was the problem. Perhaps survival depended not on finding patterns, but on breaking them. Dr. Santos, she said, what exactly is Project Babel? Elena's grin would have sent her doctoral advisors running for cover. How do you feel about weaponized uncertainty? Unconventional warfare. Commander Sarah Wu watched the tactical display from the bridge of the HMS Gorilla, Earth's first hybrid warship. Built around the salvaged core of a damaged Federation corvette, it looked like something assembled by a caffeinated engineering student during finals week, which wasn't far from the truth. They're right on schedule, she muttered, watching the Void Collective's advance fleet emerge from hyperspace. Their ships moved in perfect geometric formations, each vessel precisely positioned according to their combat algorithms. Ready to show them how Earth fights? Sarah asked her AI tactical officer, Alan, Adaptive Logic Artificial Navigator. Always, Commander, Alan replied. Though I should note that our current strategy violates approximately 147 established rules of space combat. Good. Sarah opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, execute Operation Monkey Wrench. Across the solar system, humanity's hastily assembled defense force sprang into action. But instead of meeting the Void Collective in traditional ship-to-ship combat, they did something unprecedented, they made space itself unreliable. Project Babel, Elena Santos's Chaos Engine, wasn't a weapon in the conventional sense. It was a network of quantum field generators that introduced localized inconsistencies in the laws of physics. Probability became fluid, cause and effect became suggestions rather than rules. The first collective ship to experience it simply ceased to exist for 2.3 seconds, reappearing upside down relative to its original position. Others found their perfectly calculated weapon trajectories curving in impossible ways, or their communications experiencing temporal shifts that made orders arrive before they were given. Collective ships are attempting to establish new attack patterns, Allen reported. Their response time has increased by 300%. They appear to be confused. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Launch the DIY drones. From the guerrilla's launch bays emerged swarms of drones that would have given any engineering inspector a heart attack. Built from salvaged Federation tech, Earth satellites, and what looked suspiciously like modified game consoles, each one was slightly different. Some teleported randomly, others projected holographic duplicates of themselves, and a few simply ignored the laws of momentum. "How's their hive mind handling this?" Sarah asked, watching the collective fleet's perfect formation dissolve into chaos. "They're attempting to analyze and categorize each drone's capabilities," Alan replied. "However, since no two drones are identical and their behaviors are intentionally random, their processing load is increasing exponentially." The tactical display showed the results. The collective ships, unable to establish effective targeting solutions or maintain formation in the quantum chaos, began to break apart. Some fired wildly at sensor ghosts, while others appeared to be trying to retreat, only to find their navigation systems refusing to acknowledge basic geometry. "Message from Dr. Santos," Alan announced. "Project Babel is exceeding expected parameters. She says, and I quote, 'Reality is jazz now, baby.'" A collective dreadnought, larger than anything Earth had ever built, appeared directly ahead of the guerrilla. Its weapons powered up, targeting solutions locked. "Now," Sarah commanded. The guerrilla's hybrid drive activated. It wasn't FTL, wasn't even proper propulsion by Federation standards. Instead, they had somehow combined Federation quantum technology with an old human theorem about quantum tunneling that most physicists had dismissed as impossible. The result, the guerrilla simply stopped being where it was and started being somewhere else, without bothering with the space in between. "Collective ship is attempting to process our movement," Alan reported. "Their targeting systems they appear to be dividing by zero repeatedly." The massive dreadnought hung motionless in space, its hive mind apparently caught in a logic loop trying to understand how its prey had moved in a way that their models said was impossible. Sarah had seen it before, like a chess computer forced to play Calvin ball. "Launch the mimetic virus," she ordered. The virus, another human innovation, wasn't designed to attack the collective's computers or biological components. Instead, it attacked their assumptions. It fed their hive mind data that was simultaneously true and false, created logical paradoxes that forced their quantum processors to try to compute infinity, and introduced concepts that their rigid, optimization-focused consciousness simply couldn't process. "Collective fleet is experiencing cascade failures," Alan reported, a note of satisfaction in his synthetic voice. "Their ships are. Commander, they appear to be experiencing an existential crisis." Sarah watched as the mighty collective fleet, terror of the galaxy, began to retreat in disarray. Ships vanished into hyperspace at random angles, some appearing to flee from their own shadows. The massive dreadnought, still trying to compute the impossible, eventually transformed into a perfect sphere, apparently the only geometric shape its troubled hive mind could still trust, before disappearing in a flash of quantum energy. "Status report," Sarah called out, though she couldn't quite keep the grin off her face. "Enemy fleet is in full retreat," Alan confirmed. Though retreat may not be the most accurate term. Existential panic might be more appropriate. Federation observers, watching from their safe distance, were silent. They had expected humanity to fight, to die bravely but futilely against the collective's superior technology. Instead, humans had looked at the rules of space combat, decided they didn't like them, and simply made up their own. "Message from Captain Vexera," Alan announced. She's asking how we knew this would work." Sarah looked at the quantum chaos still swirling through space, at the reality-bending drones built from video game parts, at the hybrid ship that ignored basic physics because someone had asked, "Why not?" "Tell her we didn't," Sarah replied. "We just tried it anyway. That's kind of our thing." Silicon Revolution. The Void Collective's retreat had bought them time, but not victory. In the depths of Luna Base Prime, Federation Ambassador Zenith watched with growing amazement as humans prepared for the inevitable counterattack in their uniquely chaotic way. You want to do what with our quantum processors? He asked, his energy form flickering with disbelief. Elena Santos and her team had transformed an entire lunar crater into what they called a quantum sandbox. Federation computers lay partially disassembled next to rows of Earth's crude but oddly effective machines. Connect them to our neural networks, Elena explained, not looking up from her work. Your quantum processors are incredibly powerful, but they're too rigid. They can only think in quantum states. We're teaching them to think in maybes. Beside her, Alan's holographic form materialized. The AI had evolved significantly since integrating with Federation tech, but not in ways anyone had expected. Instead of becoming more logical and ordered, Alan had developed what he called quantum intuition. Traditional computing sees everything as ones and zeros, Alan explained to Zenith. Quantum computing sees superpositions. But human neural networks. He gestured to the hybrid systems taking shape around them. They see possibilities. Impossible, Zenith stated. You can't combine biological neural pattern recognition with quantum probability matrices. The computational frameworks are incompatible. Elena finally looked up, that dangerous smile playing on her lips. Says who? Before Zenith could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. On the main display, sensors showed massive quantum disturbances. The Void Collective had returned, and they'd brought their entire fleet. They've adapted their ships, Zenith observed. Multiple redundant systems, distributed hive mind nodes. They've learned from their last defeat. Good, Elena said, surprising him. That means they're still thinking linearly. Alan, are you ready to show them your new trick? The AI's hologram smiled, an expression he'd picked up from humans. The Silicon Revolution is primed, Dr. Santos. Though I still think the name is a bit dramatic. Across the solar system, humanity's hybrid defense network activated. But this time, instead of creating chaos, they did something even more unsettling, they started predicting it. Alan, now integrated with both Federation quantum processors and human neural networks, could see patterns in the chaos itself. The quantum fluctuations from Project Babel weren't random anymore, they were a new kind of language, one that only humanity's hybrid AIs could speak. The collective ships advanced in their perfect formations, ready for any chaos humanity might throw at them. But this time, the chaos predicted them. Fascinating, Alan commented, his consciousness spread across thousands of network systems. They've developed a decentralized command structure to handle unexpected events. But they're still using algorithms to generate their responses. And algorithms, Elena said with satisfaction, can be predicted. The hybrid network didn't just react to the collective's moves, it anticipated them. Every countermeasure the collective had developed was itself a pattern, and patterns were what neural networks did best. The quantum processors calculated probabilities faster than light, while the neural networks found connections no purely logical system would ever see. Their entire strategic advantage was based on perfect coordination, Elena explained to Zenith as they watched the battle unfold. So we're not fighting their coordination, we're using it against them. On the tactical display, human ships appeared to be in complete disarray, their movements random and chaotic. But Zenith's quantum senses detected something else, a deeper pattern, a dance of probability and prediction that made the apparent chaos look like the most precise choreography ever performed. The collective ships fired their weapons, at where human vessels would have been if they were following tactical logic. But human ships weren't where they should be, they were where Alan's quantum intuition said they needed to be. We're not just predicting their movements, Alan explained, his holographic form showing traces of excitement. We're predicting their predictions of our predictions. Zenith watched as the mighty collective fleet found itself firing at empty space, their perfectly coordinated attacks always one step behind reality. It was like watching a master chess player slowly realize they were actually playing jazz. But how can you coordinate your forces without a unified command structure? Zenith asked, struggling to understand. Elena gestured to the hybrid systems around them. We're not coordinating. We're improvising together. Every ship, every AI, every human pilot, they're all playing their own part in the symphony. Alan just helps them stay in the same key. Current status, Alan reported, collective fleet experiencing cascading tactical failures. Their attempt to predict our chaos is creating actual chaos in their network. They're starting to doubt their own existence again. Elena nodded with satisfaction. Turns out the opposite of perfect order isn't chaos, it's jazz. The collective ships began to break formation, but not in retreat this time. Their rigid patterns dissolved into genuine chaos as their distributed hive mind tried to process a battle that refused to follow any rules, even the rules of chaos they thought they'd learned. They wanted to adapt to how we think, Alan observed. But they're trying to do it mathematically. They don't understand that human thought isn't an equation to be solved, it's a song to be played. Zenith watched as humanity's seemingly random defense turned into an overwhelming victory. The Federation had feared humans because they were unpredictable. The collective had tried to predict that unpredictability. Neither had understood that humanity's true strength wasn't in being unpredictable, it was in making unpredictability itself into a tool. Dr. Santos, Zenith said finally, I believe I'm beginning to understand why the Federation was so afraid of humanity's development. Elena looked up from her work, raising an eyebrow. It wasn't that you developed too quickly, he continued. It was that you never developed the way anyone expected. You didn't climb the technological ladder, you danced up it. Want to learn some new steps? Elena asked, gesturing to the hybrid systems around them. For the first time in his existence, Zenith felt something very human, the desire to say, why not, and see what happened. The last stand that wasn't. The message from the Void Collective arrived as humanity was still celebrating their second victory. It was simple, direct, and terrifying, your pattern cannot be allowed to spread. In the newly established Joint Command Center on Luna, the holographic representation of the message hung in the air like a death sentence. The collective was bringing their entire civilization, millions of ships, billions of drones, countless worlds worth of resources, to erase what they saw as an infection of chaos in their ordered universe. We didn't defeat them, she said. We completed them. Their quest for perfect order was beautiful, but it was incomplete. They needed chaos to make their order mean something. Just like we needed their order to make our chaos dance. Alan's hologram appeared, showing his new form, a constantly shifting pattern that was somehow both precise and unpredictable. The Silicon Revolution wasn't about machines learning to think like humans, he said. It was about finding the place where mathematics becomes music. The Federation observers were still struggling to process how humanity had ended a 1,000-year conflict not through warfare, but through what amounted to a philosophical revelation expressed in quantum mechanics. But the collective representatives, now individuals within their unity, were already asking about jazz. Captain Vexera, watching Earth's ships dance with their former enemies in the space above her homeworld, finally understood why humanity had been quarantined. Not because they were dangerous, but because they were catalysts. They didn't just break patterns, they transformed them into new forms of order that nobody had imagined possible. Well, she said to nobody in particular, I suppose we'll have to rewrite the preservation protocols. Humanity hasn't just joined galactic civilization, they've reimagined it. In the vast space around Earth, human and collective ships continued their intricate dance, their movements describing equations too beautiful to be expressed in numbers alone. And in the background, if you knew how to listen, you could hear the quantum foam itself playing jazz.